Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through today's topic. We are going on a seriously fascinating journey today. We're going to start all the way zoomed out, looking at the massive, macro-level systems we use to organize all life on Earth. And then, we're zooming all the way down into the microscopic organisms that basically secretly run our world. Let's find out exactly how scientists manage to bring order to the sheer chaos of nature.
87 million. Let that number sink in for a second. According to a 2011 census, there are roughly 87 million species of living organisms on Earth, scattered all across our lands and our oceans. Imagine trying to organize the world's messiest room, but instead of sorting clothes and books, you're looking at 87 million entirely unique forms of life. I mean, how do you even begin to group them? How do you study them without getting completely overwhelmed? This is literally the ultimate filing cabinet organizational challenge for scientists. It takes a brilliant system to make sense of all those similarities and differences. So, to get our heads around this massive biological filing cabinet, here's our game plan. We'll look at the history of sorting these 87 million species, dive into Whitaker's 5 kingdoms, meet the microscopic Monera and Protista, explore the fungi kingdom, contrast fungi with algae, and finally shrink way down to viruses at the very edge of life.
All right, part 1, sorting 87 million species. Let's look at the centuries of debate and discovery behind biological classification.
You know, science is constantly tweaking its filing system the more we learn. Back in 1735, Carl Linnaeus kept things super simple. He just had 2 kingdoms, Vegetabilia and Animalia, basically just plants and animals. But as our microscopes got better, well, our categories had to expand. Haeckel added a 3rd kingdom for Protista in 1866. Then, by 1925, Chatton realized there was this fundamental divide at the cellular level, giving us prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Copeland bumped us up to 4 kingdoms in 1938 by throwing Monera into the mix. And finally, in 1969, an American ecologist named Robert Harding Whitaker introduced the 5-kingdom system that really stuck.
Which brings us nicely to part 2, Whitaker's 5-kingdom system, the 1969 breakthrough.
Now, to slice all of life into 5 distinct kingdoms, Whitaker couldn't just guess, right? He judged species based on 5 incredibly specific criteria. First, he looked at how complex the cell structure was. Second, the complexity of the organism itself, like is it just one cell or is it multicellular? Third, how does it get its nutrients? Does it make its own food, absorb it, or ingest it? Fourth, what's its lifestyle in the ecosystem? Is it producing, consuming, or decomposing? And lastly, he looked at phylogenetic relationships. That basically just means tracing its evolutionary path from simple single-celled life to complex multicellular organisms.
Real quick, before we dive into the kingdoms themselves, we absolutely need to clear up some essential scientific jargon, because you're going to hear the words prokaryotic and eukaryotic a lot. If a cell is prokaryotic, it just means it lacks a distinct nucleus or specialized organelles. It's a much simpler structure. Eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, are the complex ones. They actually have a well-defined nucleus that's neatly tucked inside a nuclear membrane. Grasping this foundational structural divide is totally key to understanding everything we're about to look at.
Okay, part 3. Meet Monera and Protista. Time to enter the microscopic kingdoms.
Let's kick things off with Kingdom Monera. Bacteria are essentially the VIPs of this kingdom, coming in all sorts of crazy shapes. Think about this. If you were to take a tiny drop of curd or buttermilk, dilute it with a bit of water, and pop it under a high-power microscope, you'd see these tiny, moving, rod-like microbes. Those are lactobacilli bacteria. Now, all organisms in Kingdom Monera, which includes all types of bacteria and blue-green algae, share a few massive defining traits. They are completely unicellular, and they are exclusively prokaryotic, meaning, like we just learned, absolutely no distinct nucleus.
Stepping it up just one notch in cellular complexity brings us to Kingdom Protista. Take the amoeba, for example, with its super irregular shape, or the paramecium. Like Monera, they're single-celled, but unlike Monera, protists are eukaryotic. They actually possess a well-defined nucleus wrapped in a membrane. If you checked out a drop of pond water, you'd see these little guys cruising around using some really wild tools. The amoeba pushes out these things called pseudopodia, which are kind of like false feet, while others use hair-like cilia or whip-like flagella to swim.
Moving right along to part 4, the fascinating fungi kingdom, nature's ultimate recyclers. Welcome to the fungi kingdom. I am sure you can remember seeing a patch of fuzzy, thread-like mold growing on a forgotten piece of bread, or maybe you've spotted mushrooms popping up in damp soil after a rainstorm. Well, from microscopic baker's yeast all the way to massive mushrooms,
fungi are unbelievably diverse. Structurally speaking, they're eukaryotic, but the real game changer here is their cell wall. Unlike plants, a fungus has a super tough cell wall made out of a complex sugar called chitin, and, this is crucial, they are entirely non-green.
So because they aren't green, fungi completely lack chlorophyll, and that totally dictates how they survive. Without chlorophyll, they can't perform photosynthesis to make their own food. Instead, fungi are heterotrophs, and more specifically, most of them are saprotrophs. That's just a fancy way of saying they are nature's cleanup crew. They feed by absorbing nutrients directly from dead or decaying organic matter. Literally, if we didn't have fungi breaking down dead plants and animals, our entire ecosystem would just collapse under the weight of all that undecomposed material. No way around it.
All right, part 5, fungi versus algae. Two totally opposite survival strategies. It's really fascinating to put these two side by side and contrast their roles in nature. On one side, fungi have zero chlorophyll. They're heterotrophic decomposers, like mushrooms and yeast, surviving purely on decay. But algae? They're packed with chloroplasts and chlorophyll, making them autotrophic producers. Things like chlorella or massive seaweeds actually use sunlight to whip up their own food. And by doing that, they release vital oxygen into the atmosphere, which supports massive aquatic food chains. It's an incredible balance. One breaks down the dead, the other fuels the living.
And finally, part 6, viruses, the edge of life and the smallest microbes on the map.
Okay, we've got to talk about viruses. We are operating on a scale here that is just mind-boggling. Viruses are a mere 10 to 100 nanometers in size. To put that into perspective, they are 10 to 100 times smaller than the microscopic bacteria we were just looking at earlier. You literally cannot even see them with a standard microscope. You'd need a highly powerful electron microscope. And the crazy thing? A virus isn't even a cell. It is just an independent particle, basically nothing more than a long strand of DNA or RNA hiding inside a protective protein coat.
Because they don't have any cellular machinery of their own, viruses live this totally ruthless parasitic lifestyle. They simply cannot survive or reproduce on their own. So step 1, they have to invade a living host cell, whether it's a plant, an animal, or even a bacteria. Step 2, they completely hijack that host cell's internal machinery to start producing their own viral proteins. Step 3, they create countless replicas of themselves. And finally, step 4, they literally destroy the host cell to break free. Those brand new viral particles then go off to infect fresh cells, which is exactly how so many of the diseases we know today spread.
Which brings us to a seriously thought-provoking question. Are viruses actually alive? I mean, yes, they have genetic material, but they absolutely cannot survive or replicate without stealing the life force of a host. Because of this bizarre gray area, science generally doesn't even consider them true living organisms within Whitaker's kingdoms. Instead, they're classified as existing right on the razor's edge of living and non-living. It is such a captivating mystery, and it really defines the ultimate limits of biological classification. So, what do you think? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible zoomed-in journey on The Explainer. Keep observing, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.